Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us again for our Forge Coffee Conversations. Today, we are so excited to have Kelly Klehm with us. She is a Forge volunteer. She is also a breast cancer survivor and just an amazing person to know. We are going to be talking to her about her breast cancer journey and so many other different things that I think will be helpful for anybody listening to this conversation. So, Kelly, thank you for joining us. Can you just go ahead and tell us a little bit just about you?
Sure. Thanks for asking me to do this. I'm Kelly. I am a mom of a 4-year-old and I'm married to John. I am originally from the Midwest. Been here in Alabama for it'll be 6 years this summer. And I currently work as the director of Hope Initiatives, which is a really cool title, at One Place Family Justice Center here in Birmingham. And yeah, I live in Birmingham. I love reading books. So that's kind of me. Yeah.
How do you like the South? You know,
Okay. I never thought I would live in Alabama, honestly. Like I joke about that because like I feel like that's not a thing. People say that they want to like go live in Alabama. But we came to visit Birmingham before moving and we were like, it's really pretty down here and we like it. And so it's different, of course. And people are always asking us like, Auburn or Alabama, like Roll Tide, or what is it even for Auburn? I don't know, because we don't follow college football. So we had to kind of like learn that a little bit and how big that was down here. But it's great. Like I love that we can be outside for like most of the year.
yeah.
It gets maybe a little bit too hot in the summer, but it's great. We're happy here.
Well, I'm glad that you like it, and we're happy to have you down here. And so excited that you did move down here, and we can have this conversation with you today, just about your journey. I've heard your journey, and I love how inspiring you are. And I would love to just kind of talk a little bit about that. Can you give us a little bit of what your journey was like when you were diagnosed?
Sure. So it was in December of 2020 that I felt a lump on my own at home. And I was like, is this a thing? Like, I honestly wasn't good at doing like self exams, I don't know. And then I feel like if anyone does that on this call, it's kind of like, well, I don't know, your boobs are lumpy, right? Like, how do you know if like, I feel like thinking back on it now that I wish there was like a model at a doctor's office that you could actually like feel that would be like, this is normal, this is concerning. Cause I was like, is this a thing or is this not? And I asked my husband, like, is this a thing? And he was like, I think that's a thing. So it was like 2 weeks before Christmas. Not great timing. Cause then I called my doctor and was like, hey, I think I have a lump. What do I do about this? And I had to wait, like a month until after the new year to go in for a mammogram. I hadn't had a mammogram before because I was 39 at that time. So I went and had a mammogram and biopsy and ultrasound and, another mammogram and more biopsies and all that stuff. And then got the call that, yes, I do have breast cancer. So it was stage 2 breast cancer on just found in my right side. So I had to do chemo. And like going for that first appointment was kind of like meeting with an oncologist and the breast surgeon and the radiation oncologist. I had my husband come. You just like don't know what to expect. And I felt fine. Like my sister's like, how can you be fine? And I'm like, what can I do about this right now? I have no choice but to just be fine and like wait for the next steps, right? So like we'll just go and we'll see what they say. And then they were like, okay, you need to do chemo. And then they like left the room to like, transition to something else. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose my hair. And so that's like the first thing that came to mind and was not cool what anyone wants to do, but went through chemo, 2 different kinds of chemo. then had a double mastectomy, and radiation, and then also had a total hysterectomy in January of this year because I am BRCA1 positive. So had that genetic marker, which my sister also has. We get that from our dad's side, we found. So yeah, I got to experience all the things.
Wow.
So yeah.
And in such a short amount of time.
It was like almost all in like a year, like all just a year. Yes.
Goodness. I mean, so, and I know you mentioned you have a 4-year-old. So how was that, managing all of this compact news, all of these different transitions? Like, how did you balance work, life, mom? And now I found out I've had breast cancer. Now I've also found out I've had the BRCA1 gene. Like, how in the world are you managing all of that?
I don't know. I just did. My husband's good. So I'm really lucky there that he was like supportive of everything and was like, yeah, we're just gonna do what we need to do. And he was already like, a hands-on dad, and was able to, just step in and do more things around the house. And we had to communicate a lot more and be better about like our schedules and sharing calendars and tracking those appointments. And I've got a full day of chemo stuff because that never goes as planned, and that just took forever on those days. So that was kind of just a full day. And then it was like he would pick Will up from daycare, and we had people that brought us meals and offered support, and offered to, hey, well, we can take Will for the weekend. Our next door neighbor was like, hey, we'll watch your son and the other girl in the neighborhood, so you guys, the two couples, can like go on a date, so we were able to do that. So we had a lot of people around us that were super supportive. Our families are both in Illinois, so they're far away from us. So that did make it a little harder. I think we didn't have like grandma can just like step in and do some things easily. But they were still able to help us. My mom was able to take some time off of work for extended periods of time and would come down for like 2 weeks at a time. I think she was able to come for like 3 visits, came when I had my mastectomy. And so we had like an extra person in the house to help with that. And work was actually like a really good thing for me. Like I really love my job. And I have said frequently that I'm really glad that I'm working where I'm working while I was going through this, because it was like the best place for me to work to get through it. Everyone here was so supportive. They all signed up to do things and help. Our board of directors, it's a nonprofit where I work. Our board was like sending me things and dropping off pizza and making a meal. I could be flexible with my schedule. So, I would come into work before chemo for a couple hours, get some things done, go to that. And then if that went late, or if I just didn't feel good or something, then I was just done for the day. Or if 2 days later, my chemo days were like Wednesdays. So if on Friday, sometimes I didn't feel great. There were a couple of them. It's just like, I'm not feeling it. Or I would come in and then I was like, I just need to go home. And that like wasn't a huge deal. So I was really lucky that I was able to do that here. But like work was kind of my happy place. So I wanted to be at work. And I think that also helped me maybe, so that I wasn't like at home, laying on the couch, sleeping, just like thinking and feeling sorry for myself, because I wanted to like be at work and keep doing things. And then it just made me like, I was like ready to get up in the morning and go. So, yeah, I mean, it was for sure like hard, and thinking about how to talk to Will about cancer and how much to tell. I mean, he was 3 at the time.
Yeah.
So, we just did what felt right for us. So it was like, okay, I'm going to tell him that like I'm sick, or like, oh, I'm going to the doctor today, or I have an appointment and, Dad's going to pick you up, or no, I'm going to take a nap and I don't want to go to the, I don't feel like going to the park with you guys today, or I can't do that. And then even for like the surgery for like mastectomy, it was like, okay, I was going to be overnight. I think I was overnight for that. So we told him ahead of time, like, going to the hospital, and daddy's going to stay with me, but grandma's here, and then when I come home, I'm not going to be able to like pick you up because I'm going to have to heal. And so we just kind of like prepped him, but not in a like scaring him about it. And he was like, okay, fine about it. Even shaving my head, like that was another thing, like, okay, look, my hair is starting to come out because I'm taking this medicine that's making me sick. And then we had like a head shaving party. And we had some friends come over, and we were like, okay, I'm going to shave my head, ready? And like, so he was like a part of that. And then my husband shaved his head and got like a little mohawk for a minute. So we just kind of made it fun. And it was like, okay for him to talk about like, oh, mom, your head is, it's getting, and my hair's coming in, your hair's getting fluffy. And I want you to have a bald head again. So we just talked about it as it kind of came up. Yeah. So that was a lot. Sorry.
No, it's not. That is so lovely. I love that idea, because it can be very difficult to talk to your kids, especially that young, because at that stage, mutilation of the body is such a huge thing. Changes of the body is such a huge thing, right? And so how do you, really explain to your baby, hi, mommy has breast cancer. These are the things I'm going. So I love that. I think that is so awesome that, you found a way to tell him, but, to make it engaging for him so that he doesn't just, feel lost in all the all of the changes in his life. And both of y'all, your husband, yours, all of those changes, for him to be a part of it, I think makes a huge difference versus like, he sees these things, but he doesn't understand what's going on. And I think that ultimately makes it easier for you. You don't feel like you're keeping some big secret away from somebody, a part of your everyday life,
Right. Yep.
So what would you say was like the most challenging thing throughout it? Like, it sounds like you had a lot of support from your family and your job and, people just in your community and support system. What would you think was the most challenging thing to kind of navigate through, even with those support systems in place?
I think there's just like a lot to take in, that like navigating the whole like medical side of things, like the paperwork that comes with it, the insurance, the just like the everyday frustrations with driving around the parking deck, looking for parking, waiting in line for that, waiting for appointments, not knowing like what questions to ask, or should I, and second guessing yourself sometimes too. I think like I felt good about my treatment team. Like I'm really glad I was at UAB. I loved my team. But I think even still it was like, well, should I be getting a second opinion? Am I not? Am I wrong for just going with what they say? Or should I be asking more questions, but I don't know what questions to be asking, or what are all of my options? Or not knowing, like, should I be changing my diet? And like all those things I feel like weren't taken into consideration maybe on like the medical side of things. It was just like, well, here we're going to do the chemo, and we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And like, if you want to do some other, integrative medicine things, like here's a brochure about it, and like let us know. But I kind of wish that that was just like also a part of it. Like you can talk with a nutritionist, you can talk with here's some maybe other supplements that you might want to take. I mean, I didn't really do any of that, but then I'm like, well, am I not trying hard enough am I doing everything I could be doing? So I think that was maybe feel like I was lucky in the like chemo didn't make me like super sick. I mean, for sure I was like tired, and I had some days where I was off of work and weekends where I just kind of rested. And my surgeries weren't like, I don't feel like I had like terrible recoveries or anything like that. I mean, that was all like major, but I think it was that like, just wondering, am I doing everything that I should be doing?
It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot that goes into it. And like you're saying, like that back end part of it,
Right.
So what are some things that kind of helped you navigate through that, like through those frustrations of, am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? This is a lot of information. How do I retain it? Sometimes you go to appointments and they might tell you a lot of stuff, and then somebody might ask you, what they said in an appointment, and you're like, they said something. I
Right.
just couldn't tell you what they said because it was a
Right.
lot. So what are some things that you did to kind of, make that easier for yourself to kind of manage and navigate through?
So at the first initial appointment with the whole team, like getting the full diagnosis and everything, my husband was there for that. And so that was good to just have like another set of ears to like, he was jotting down some notes because that was a lot to take in. And then he came with me to a couple of my chemo appointments. But then I kind of just wanted those to be like my time because it's like you're there for a long time. And so I kind of just tried to use that as like, no, I'm just going to like listen to music. I'm going to text my friends. I read a lot of books. I started journaling. So I kept a pretty good journal, especially in the first like several months of things. Like every week I was writing at least once a week on those chemo days, what was happening and what the nurses would tell me. And just different experiences from that, frustrations, good and bad and funny and all of that. I did know a couple people who had gone through breast cancer, some like 10 plus years ago and some more recently, and all with, of course, different stories. So I would kind of reach out to them and ask them some questions. Some of them reached out to me and were like, I'm happy to tell you about my experience. So that was helpful. I knew of Forge when I was diagnosed and was like, yeah, but I'm not going to do a support group. Like that's not, I don't need anything right now. And then Lauren, executive director, kept bugging me about Forge because she's great in a very nice way. And like, hey, we've got this young survivor support group. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm good. Like I'm putting stuff out there on social media and sharing my stuff so that people know that they can approach me and that I can kind of like control my story and my narrative. And I think that was helpful for a lot of people. But she kept asking me to come to this support group. And then they had it where it was like, we could bring our partner. So I asked John if he would come to me with that. And so we went to that. We only went to one, but it was really great, actually. Like, I really liked that. So I did that. So that was kind of helpful to just hear and see some other people that were like similar age to me, that had kids that were also similar age to me. And then I joined several different like Facebook groups and stuff just to like hear from people around, all around with what they were going through. So all that kind of put together is how I kind of got through it.
And that's wonderful. And I like that, you kind of change your perspective on how you look at me going to my appointments, like, I'm just going to take this time for me, I'm going to have to be here anyway. Like, what are some things that I can do that will make me feel good? Like talking to my friends, reading some books, posting about my journey, just, filtering through those emotions, but also doing something positive about yourself. So I love that you had that perspective. It can be very difficult to think like that when you're going through something so serious,
Yeah.
So I know we've talked a little bit about it, but I would love to kind of discuss. So I know you mentioned you had your double mastectomy. And so there's always a big question on to have reconstruction, to not have reconstruction. What is it like to have a double mastectomy? What are some things that you wish you knew before you did it or afterwards? What can you, kind of tell us about that?
Yeah, so I went into it thinking reconstruction, ended up, I'm flat, so I do not have breasts. So, and I think that needs to be talked about a lot more. And I've talked about that some like through social media and I'm in some different groups, but again, I did talk to some friends who had been through reconstruction. I joined several Facebook groups for like people that had reconstruction. And there's different ways, like I knew I didn't want to have implants. That was just like, I don't know, in my head. I think just maybe hearing all the things that like could go wrong with implants. I don't know, that I just was like, that was definitely not going to be me. But then it was a question of, do I want to stay flat, or do I want to do this other flap surgery where they like take the, I don't know, abdominal fat. I'm not a doctor. I don't know all the right words, but from your lower abdominal area and like reconstruct breasts with that. So I had considered that, and you have to be like the right kind of candidate for that. So I was looking into both of the like flat or that flap surgery. Met with a plastic surgeon. And he was like, yeah, okay, I think you could do that surgery if you want to. So I still like, it was a big decision, right? Like, I don't know. I was not a person that's like defined by my breasts in any way. I mean, it's not like they were that great to begin with. And like, so I was like, well, I could do flat, and then like, or am I going to be happy with it? So it was a lot, like it was constant, like every day it was just like, should I do it? Should I not? Talk to my husband. He was like, do whatever. He was supportive of whatever. Talked with my friends. I think talking about flat with people is kind of like, why would you do that? Like, or how did you get to that decision? Because it seems like not the norm. So I went into the surgery thinking, okay, I will have this flap surgery, because they said we can put the expanders in. And then if you decide at any point after that, we can still take those out and you can go to flat. And I was like, great, that seems like reasonable. So I did that, had the expanders put in, had those for 2 weeks, went to the like follow-up surgical appointment. The expanders were not comfortable, and I didn't even have, they get like filled. So like you get these tissue expanders put in, and then you get filled every, I don't even know how that works because I didn't get to that point, but every week or 2 weeks or something, they're adding more so that your tissue expands, and then they'll do the transfer with the surgery. They were uncomfortable. And I just decided I don't want to have more surgeries, because if I went for that flap surgery, that was going to be like, okay, you're going to get these expanders filled every so often, and then you will come and you'll have that surgery. But that surgery is sometimes not like just a once more surgery. There's like that surgery, and then you might have to have some other touch-ups and other things. And it was like, I mean, it's like affecting your whole torso, right? Because they're like doing something. I've already had a C-section too, like that was terrible. So it's like that again, plus they're moving it up here. And I was like, I don't have time for that. And like, do I want to like be out of commission for even more weeks? Do I want to like, or do I just want to be done with things and just like move on? So I had the expanders taken out, and was sewn up, and I'm flat. So, that's how that went. I think a lot of people are like, are you okay with that? How did you come to that decision? But like I said, I was in different groups. I've seen pictures of people with reconstructed breasts. I've seen lots of pictures of people who opted to go flat. It's kind of empowering, in my opinion. Like, I'm not defined by my breasts. So yeah.
And something else I'm kind of like hearing you say too is just like knowing that you don't have to decide today. You know,
Right.
You can ask around, you can look around, you can really just soul search, like, is this really what I want to do? Because it is another surgery. And, you know, if you're somebody who is like me, like, I don't like medical stuff going on for too long, you know, so, you know, is this really for you? And there is no right or wrong. It's not, you know, like, hey, if you don't have a reconstruction, you're not through, or if you do have a reconstruction, you're through, or you're complete. You know, there's no right or wrong. It's very individual. So that's kind of what I'm hearing. You know, like you can take your time to the decision as well. It's not like a, you know, hey, we're gonna put the expanders in today. I need to know something next Tuesday about, you know, your decision. If it takes you more time, it just takes more time.
Right.
What other advice would you give to somebody who's kind of on the fence about it? You know, like they're like, oh, I don't want more surgery, or oh, I'm scared of getting an implant or having the other surgery where they do a fat transfer. But at the same time, like, I want to have some femininity in my chest, but I don't necessarily, I'm not completely, just that fence,
Yeah.
What are some suggestions you might have for somebody who might be having difficulties choosing, what next steps are for them?
I think you need to look at all the sides, right? So it was helpful for me, also a little overwhelming, because you know how like if you're on Facebook and you get in some of these groups and there's people that are very like, oh, implants, great, great, great. I haven't had any issues, blah, 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 blah. You're only hearing the negative stories. And then there's people that are like, flat, flat, flat. This is so amazing. Don't do the implants. You're poisoning your body. And they can be very like polarizing. But I would say join a group where people are pro implant. Join a group of people that did the flap surgery. Join a group of people that have opted to go flat. And then like pay attention to what people are posting, ask questions on there. I mean, those groups are like, there are women on there that really are like all about giving you all the knowledge of their experience and chiming in. So look at all of those groups and think about all of that, talk to people that have gone through it. And then I think like, don't be afraid to ask your surgeons. I wish that I would have known more about going flat before I went into my surgery so that I could have like ask a few more questions. Because I might have had like a better outcome, or I might have opted to go flat just like right away from the get-go. And some surgeons, just know that some surgeons are like gonna be like, I do implants and like that's more my thing, or I know what you're talking about. Yes, aesthetic flat closure, I know what that is. And others are like, I don't know what that is. So I think it's okay to do your research and like shop around. I mean, you are the consumer. So like I met with a plastic surgeon. We did not jive. I just didn't feel comfortable. Like there was just something I was like, I don't know. So I asked to meet with a different surgeon in that same practice group. It was a little uncomfortable because they were like, well, was something wrong? But like, this is me and this is like my body. I didn't want this one. Get me with someone else, please. And they did. And I was much happier. So don't be afraid to like ask those questions.
Yeah, and those are really great tips. And I love that you mentioned, like, if you're having those thoughts, like, go ahead and bring them up to the person that you need to be bringing it up with, aside from yourself, the doctor is going to be, the best person to tell you what to medically expect, aside from, your support systems or groups and stuff. So I think that that's a really huge point that you've made. Kelly, I've enjoyed talking with you, and I know we could probably do this for much, much longer, but I'm so glad that you took the time out today to share your journey and your transparency with us on your decision to, stay flat, and how that made you feel and how you came to that, and just navigating through having breast cancer and being a mom and working and all of the other things that life comes with. Before we close out, do you have anything else that you'd like to leave any of our viewers and listeners with?
No, I think just be open and investigate all sides if you're going through it. And if you're helping someone else that's going through it, I think making sure that you're not projecting what you would do or think that you would do in that situation, and really like helping people just explore other options. And I wish we could kind of more normalize the like going flat and not making that such a like weird thing that women are so defined by their breasts or feel like they have to be. So concerned about that. You can still be like feminine, you're still a woman, so yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you.
Happy to talk about this.
Yeah, I'm glad that you have. I think it's going to help so many people who are literally sitting there right now, thinking about this very thing. Here at Forge, we do see that more often than not, women who are like, I don't really know if I want to have reconstruction. What are the both sides of this? Do you have somebody I can talk to, who has not? Do you have someone that I can talk to who has, so that I can see what is best for me, So I think this is awesome, and I'm just so glad that you lended yourself as a resource to Forge as a volunteer, but also as this valuable coffee conversation that we've had today. And I know we'll see more of you. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day.